Hello. I just had a session and I really wanted to uh, come up and express or share uh, the beauty of it. So my client uh, would now they're doing work for a very long time and they have seen all the wounds, they have seen all the inner child trauma, they have worked on all of that, they've done the constellations, they've done a lot of these things. Now they are stuck somewhere between taking the action, failing, and then falling into the story of victimhood. So, what happens, right? What happens is, let me take out the paper. There is a wound. Okay, there is a wound. Something happened. The wound could be rejection, abandonment. Imagine a pre-verbal state. Imagine a very tiny child who is not able to express, who's not able to express their need. And what are the fear? So if a baby feels hungry and the mother is not able to come and feed them, what is that instant fear? I'm hungry, I will die. I'm hungry, I will die. So that very primal wound is of death. What if the child, now this is an example that I'm explaining with, if that child continues having the fear, continues having that same feeling again and again, what happens to the child? They start creating survival mechanisms, they start creating coping mechanisms, and they adapt to the situation. When they adapt to the situation, there are certain adaptives created. How do they adapt to the situation? I'm crying. My mother is might be busy. She's not able to give me food. Let's just not cry. We'll not cry. As we grow older, we start creating walls around us. Remember, whenever I uh, whenever I'm on stage, people laugh at me. So fine, better. I will not go on stage. I will not do this thing. I'm better off alone. I'm better than this. I don't care. I don't give a fuck. Whatever. And now this person grows up to be an adult. But whenever a situation comes up that triggers that primal wound of I will die, I'll be left alone, I'm rejected, I'm abandoned, I'm not accepted, there is an adaptive created. The adaptive is I don't give a fuck, I don't care, don't cry, don't weep, don't say, don't speak. And that adult who's like a well known adult, and because they're merged with the adaptive, they start acting as children. Like, the problem statement that I have done so much of work, or, I know everything, Himadri, but still I'm not able to take the action. Or I know everything, but every time I'm in front on a stage, I freeze. What is happening? You are an adult, you are an experienced person, you might be MD of a company, and then you freeze. Why do you freeze? Because at that moment there is a primal wound activated and there is an adaptive, and you as an adult merge with the adaptive. Sometimes you merge with a wound. Where is the adult? It's just gone. It has um, left the story altogether. What was happening? And the other beautiful part of it is when we become the survival mechanisms, when we become those adaptives, we step into the shoes of our most critical parent, because that is how we learned surviving. That is how we saw them surviving. That is how we heard that this is how you survive. Why are you crying so much? Why are you clinging so much? Why do you behave so? Why do you don't do this? I have told you so many times. Can't you learn? Can't you do this? So there is a wound, there is a trigger, and we look at that trigger from a very critical space. When we look at ourselves from that critical space, We leave the agency of adults that we are. Who are we? Where is that adult gone? So, what was happening with this child was, with this person was, they were trying to learn swimming, but every time that person is under the water, they get scared. So, a lot of fear comes up. The moment fear comes up, that fear is handled by a very angry child. The fear is that wound, and that anger is the protective mechanism. And that anger language is, you cannot do this, you're not good enough, you can never learn, you can never do this. And that language of the adaptive is language of the critical parent. So what is happening? The client is stuck between wound and the critical parent, the anger, the adaptive side of it. But where is this adult? Where is this amazing human being? Lost agency of it. In every session, right? When I work with someone, when someone, um, you know, decides to work with me, what are we doing? What exactly is happening in our session? What exactly is happening in 21 lakh a year session? Like every week when I'm meeting my client, what exactly is happening? Simple thing. We are looking at a situation, right? We are looking at what is happening. I'm showing my client a mirror, that this is where you're identifying with things around you. So this client would identify with a parent, would identify with a wound, would identify with a survival mechanism. But what is truly happening? Where is the adult? So I will show you the mirror of what you are identifying with. And then we will work together in integrating all those parts and being the adult that you are. And then when for the first time you get access of that adult position, that this is who I am, this is what I want to do, we work on the connection, we work on the bridging, wiring, that every time a trigger comes up, instead of merging with your adaptive, instead of merging with your survival, there is another place. So, as Sadhguru says, you're not your mind, you're not your body. So, where are you? You are that consciousness, you are something else, you're not this. So, I am not my wound. My wounds uh, have definitely played a very important role in my life, but I'm not my wounds and I'm not my survival mechanism. If my survival mechanism was um, getting into addiction, I'm not that. And if my wound was being alone, I'm not that also. I am a 39-year-old therapist, coach, healer, mother, this person who loves to run. I'm different. I'm not my wound. I'm not my wound. I'm not my survival. Who am I? So if there is one question that you can ask yourself, who are you? You're not your wound and you're not your survival. Then who is it? Whenever we merge into our adaptive, it will definitely be one of our critical parents. And when you merge with that critical parent, you leave your space, you step into those shoes, and you start criticizing yourself. That wound wants that critical parent to look and accept you. Okay? That wound wants the approval of the parent. The adaptive or survival will rebel against that parent, will do everything going against. But in getting merged, seeking approval, and then going against it, both are the extremes of something. Where are you in it? Where are you? There has to be a space in between. That famous quote by Rumi, out beyond the right and wrong, there is a field, and I'll meet you there. When we decide something as right and wrong, we also uh, make it very tight. But we are not both of those. We are somewhere else. So it's, uh, I don't remember it clearly, I'm sorry. But outside that idea of right and wrong, there is a field, and I'll meet you there. So there is that adult, there is that expanded version where I'll meet you. And that is our uh, plan, right? That is our desire. That is our ultimate expression, to be in that being, to being in that expansive state where we are not connected with this is right, this is wrong, that is wrong, or this is right and that is wrong, vice versa. It's not, it's none of those. When you can take a decision, when you can take a decision from the centered space, from that expanded aware state, who would you be? So I will leave you with this question. If you were not seeking approval of anybody, if you were not getting mixed up with the idea of right and wrong, who would you be? And that is exactly what we find out in our one-to-one work. That is who we meet. That is who we discover in our one-to-one work together. That is what my work is. That is what I deeply, deeply envision for anyone that comes to experience this work together. Thank you.